Thank you, Jeff, and thank you all very much for being here today. Gwen, congratulations. I too will be making good-looking statements. Pacific Empire, we're a company that is very specifically focused on copper and gold-enriched copper deposits. One of the things Diane mentioned was infrastructure is the anchor for serious copper deposits. And Pacific Empire is always focused on gold-enriched copper deposits in an area where you can build a mine, and ideally for us, sell it to a major. So our projects are focused and centralized in British Columbia, in the Quesnel terrain. That's the yellow band there you see there. That's the Quesnel terrain. There's a lot of copper gold mines. That's Main Street, if you will. We're just north of Prince George and very close to Mount Milligan. So we are in an area where there is pre-existing infrastructure. Now, if we zoom into the area specifically where we are, you'll see that we're in good company in this area. Just to the east of us in green, we've got Mount Milligan, that's Centerra Gold. So there is an existing copper gold mine in the area. And then far up to the northwest, a recent newcomer to the area is South 32, the Australian major. So I would suspect that they would not be in this belt doing early stage exploration if they were not confident that if they found something, they could turn it into a mine. In addition, just to the northwest of us, we've got Northwest Copper. They've got the Quanica deposit. And then in the pink, that is Pacific Ridge. They've got some interesting properties there as well. And then we're in brown. We're right in the middle at a place where really there's a large flexure in the regional stratigraphy in this area. And we've always postulated that there's a large northeast trending structure going through this area. We have two properties in this area, 25,000 hectares. Interestingly enough, this is where we started the company back in 2012. This was one large property at the time. We became a prospect generator, and 18 projects went into the portfolio. At one point we had 21. Over the course of 4 or 5 years, we basically killed those properties, and these were the survivors. The properties we started on back in 2013 really were the properties that we came back to. I had to get a hold of the Trident. That was a property we'd optioned back in 2013. We held it to 2015. Property payments were just far too high, couldn't keep it. We did have Oz Minerals as a partner on both those projects, but we had to return it. And I was very fortunate recently to get that project back and reacquire it, a project that's taken me basically 7 years to get a hold of. Very lucky to get it. So what's our plan for 2024? We actually just completed a magnetotelluric survey, first time I've ever done one. Very interesting. We've done magnetics, all types of IP, all that sort of thing. But this was an airborne magnetotelluric survey. And we actually released the preliminary data yesterday. Very intriguing. What I will say, it's new to me, it's a lot of data compared to a magnetic or an IP survey. And we have external consultants helping us with it as well. Equity Exploration, which used to be Equity Engineering. Very talented team there. They're helping us go through that. And the goal really is to identify and confirm on the Trident what we want to drill. We have a number of drill targets identified that we want to go after, but we really just want to confirm that. And on Pinnacle, we flew over a conceptual target that I think also looks very interesting. But the goal on Trident is to get one or two holes in there this year, proof of concept that what we think is there is there. Share structure, 139 million shares. We announced the closing of a $722,000 financing on Monday, and prior to that in January we closed $425,000. So we're sitting around $1 million right now. Just a brief breakdown of our share structure and who the predominant shareholders are. The Trident property, as I mentioned, this was acquired a couple years ago, and this was a project I had really spent 7 years going back and forth with the owner on this property. I really wanted this. He knew I wanted it. But what happened was he'd had this since 1969, he'd had this property. He made the discovery as a geologist at a UBC, but they really didn't know what it was. Everybody thought the Trident was a shear zone hosted copper gold system. And it really wasn't until 2014 that our senior advisor, who was working with Teck at the time, came up and said, this is not a shear zone, this is a bona fide porphyry. And I'll let you know why. It's pretty obvious in hindsight. It's funny, forest through the trees, but in hindsight, absolutely, this is a porphyry project. And once I knew that, I spent every Christmas with cards and visiting the owners and really spent a lot of time making sure they knew I wanted this property back. So this is the MT survey, magnetotellurics. This is what we recently completed. And what you'll see is the large oval on your right there. That's the Trident property. That's our primary target area on that property. You can see the historical drill holes there. Our primary target area where we think the porphyry is just to the north, if not northwest a little bit, and that's the focus of our survey. You'll also see we have two properties and they're separated by a river, but on the left is our Pinnacle property. And then this target we flew there was highly conceptual, but very intriguing nonetheless. This is what Joanne Nelson, who was the regional geologist for British Columbia, coined Nelson's elbow. This is basically the inside of an elbow where there's a large flexure in the province. And that's the result of basically the trains moving this direction for a long time. Then in the Jurassic, there was a bit of a jerk movement where it moved backwards, and that's what caused this bend in the terrain. These are wonderful things to look at if you're looking for large-scale structures. Australians love this kind of thing, thinking big structures. We're looking for big fluids, plumbing systems, so you need these type of structures to move the fluid if you're going to get that much metal in the ground. Again, this is just what you're seeing on this slide is just resistivity on surface, but it just shows pay attention to the three lines that are going left to right, right to left on this. These are examples of the sections I'm going to show you next. But if you'll notice on your left here, it's predominantly red. That's our Pinnacle project, and on the right, it's predominantly blue. Interestingly enough, the rocks are completely different. The red is intrusive or granite, and the blue is volcanic. So these behave electromagnetically in terms of their signature, kind of the inverse of each other. Just keep that in mind when looking at. So this is what we were looking for, actually. If you look onto the right, you'll see in that blue area, you'll see on all three of those, you'll see what are conductors surrounded by blue. This is really what we were looking for. And what you're looking for is these conductors and these subtle fluid pathways. If you're going to put large amounts of if you're going to get large amounts of metal into a constricted volume of rock, you need a serious plumbing system. There's no other way to do it, quite simply. So this is really what magnetotellurics we were hoping for, and very encouraged by what we saw. It looks like on the Trident side, we have our conductors, they're there with what appears to be fluid conduits. So we're very excited about that. In the coming days and weeks, we are going to be releasing 3D voxel models. We're basically now, this is in 3D, and we're going to be better able, I think, to convey the orientation of some of these things. Pinnacle is, or the Trident, or Pinnacle side, yeah, very interesting as well, although it's going to look much more interesting in 3D. It doesn't quite do it justice here, but there certainly is a fluid pathway there as well. That picture there conveys, this is what we're looking for on the property, and this is what we found, they found in 2007, and which is critical. That rock that's a bona fide porphyry, and although it's just fingers, we get it. These fingers are attached to something. And the way everybody's drilled this, like the palm of your hand, think of it like that. And everybody's drilled across these. That's the traditional way to do it in our business, true thickness. But if you look at some of the 2-meter intervals where it represents this porphyry, they're drilling 1 gram and 1%. So we need to find where these fingers are coming from, and we need to find more of what's in that picture there on the bottom right, or bottom left, sorry. This is the plan. Basically drill the other direction, go down these fingers, chase the porphyry. We're going down the fingers, basically looking for the palm of the hand. That's the deposit itself. It serves two purposes. First hole is going to give us great numbers, and this is really how they found Cascabel. They went down one of these fingers, and as they got down it, it just sort of blew out, and there was the mine. This is my conceptual model, if you will. Pretty straightforward, but that's what we think we're looking at there, drilling into the porphyry as opposed to away from it. And in the end, it's all about what do the rocks tell us, right? This diagram basically illustrates that. You see the porphyry in the middle, or off to the bottom left there. That's sort of central to what we're looking at. Off to the right, to the east, they tried to extend that, thinking it was a shear zone. They got into extremely altered granitic rock, which is now mush. Up to the left, epithermal, there's visible golden outcrop. So we know it's not to the west, to the east, or to the south. What's to the north? And as we go to the north, we're basically seeing what are only be described as breccias, very high-grade breccias. And breccias are intimately associated with porphyry systems. So I think after almost 50 years of Falcon Bridge started in 1971, and we hope to put a bow on this here starting in 2024 and prove that there is a porphyry here, but it's just to the north. And our drill program that's planned for the fall and late summer of this year, I think will be a very exciting program to watch. Thank you all for your time.